In this video, I will show how to solve exercise 4.2, where we write a function that has one number as an input and one number as an output. We have to solve this question using if and else statements. And in order to solve it, I will start by applying the three simple steps of coding, of which the first one is identifying your problem. In this exercise, we have two boundary conditions. The first one is -2, and the second one is 9. For every input value that is equal to or below -2, we want MATLAB to return an output value of 2. For every value between -2 and 9, we want MATLAB to return an output value of 1. And for every value that is equal to 9 or higher, we want MATLAB to return an output value of 3. Before we start solving any exercises in MATLAB, we will first go to step 2, which is drawing the logic flow of this assignment. We start with a variable, let's say x, and we first have to evaluate whether this x is either smaller than or equal to -2. If this is indeed true, then the output that MATLAB should give should be 2. If this is not true, however, we should evaluate the number again. We can, for example, check whether it's larger than or equal to 9. Here we again have two outcomes. If it's true, then the output MATLAB will give is 3. And if it's not true, we're somewhere between -2 and 9. And then the output MATLAB should give should be 1. So now we have our logic flow, so we can start opening MATLAB. So we're going to open a new MATLAB file. Let's call it exercise 4.2. And we know we want to have a function. So we start by writing function and immediately also close it with an and. Always do that beforehand so you don't forget. Then the function has to have the same name as the file name. Furthermore, we want to define an input, in this case x. And we can do that by writing x between parentheses right behind the function name. Furthermore, we want an output, which we define by writing output is in front of the function name. So now MATLAB knows that when you enter input x, it has to give the output output. In the core of the function, we will tell MATLAB which output it has to give for which x. We will do this with if statements. So we first write an if. And let's immediately also include the end here so we don't forget that. Then we look at our logic flow to see which if statement we have to do first. And we see here that the first question we need to ask MATLAB is whether x is smaller than or equal to -2. And if so, the output should be 2. So let's put this into MATLAB. On the first line behind the if statement, we write our question. So if x is smaller than or equal to -2. And if this is the case, then on the second line, we now write output is 2. So now MATLAB knows that when x is a value that's smaller or equal to -2, it should return the output value of 2. However, when this is not the case, we should consult our second boundary value. In our logic flow, we can see that when the first question is not true, the second question you should ask MATLAB is whether x is larger than or equal to 9. And if this is the case, MATLAB should return an output value of 3. So let's also put this into MATLAB. Since this is the second if statement within the if-else block, we do not use if again, but else if. So we enter else if x is larger than or equal to 9. And then on the next line, we write down the output value we want MATLAB to give, which is 3 in this case. So now we've asked MATLAB already, is x equal to or smaller than 2? Then it should say as an output 2. And if this is not the case, we ask MATLAB if x is larger than or equal to 9. If this is the case, MATLAB will give 3 as an output. If this is not the case, we need to find a third option. This third option can be found by looking at our problem definition again. We've already defined the left and the right boundaries below -2 or higher than 9. So all that's left is to define the area between these two numbers. So when x has a value between -2 and 9. A very intuitive way to write this in MATLAB would be, for example, by writing else if x is between -2 and 9. However, remember that MATLAB always reads from top to bottom and from left to right. So in this case, it will only read else if x is bigger than -2 and ignore everything else behind it. Therefore, it's better to use the else statement. The else statement takes into account all the values that have not been previously defined by if statements. In this case, this will be the area between -2 and 9. Since the else statement takes into account all the undefined possible values for x, we do not need to give any boundary conditions for else. It includes everything you haven't previously defined. So therefore, you can just type else, and then under that, the outputs that we want to give to all the other values, which is in this case 1. So now we have our complete code and we can test whether it works. First of all, always save your function, and then in the command window type the name of the function, in this case exercise 4.2, and then an input value for x. I will first start with -3, which should return 2 as an output, and indeed it returns 2. We can also try a few other values to see if everything works. For example, we can use the value -2 to see if the equal as works, and it does. Let's also try a number between -2 and 9, for example 3, which indeed gives the desired output of 1. And let's try a very big number that is bigger than 9. For example, we can use 100, and indeed it gives the output of 3. So I hope using if and else statements is a bit more clear now. Good luck on practicing the rest of your exercises.